This is an example of one of the earliest surgical manuals that we have. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they didn't quite understand, say, contagious diseases. There were times the Black Death broke out in Constantinople in the 6th century, and the death rate was about 10,000 per day. So you weren't guaranteed to escape all sickness, but Constantinople had you had free bread, no taxes, all the baths that were fairly cheap, and of course the hippodrome, sports you could go see for free. The proof sort of is in the pudding. So what was the average lifespan in the Byzantine Empire? Take maybe the year 1100 in the West. It's probably around 28 to 30 if you throw in infant mortality. In the Byzantine Empire as a whole, it's about 10 years older. And if you lived in Constantinople and were wealthy, it could be older than that. The Emperor Justinian lived till he was 82. What's more impressive is he had a general named Narses. He was a eunuch. He conquered Italy when he was 74. And 20 years later, he was still there as a general at age 94. He disappears, falls out of favor, and disappears after that. Who knows how long he lived. An exception, I'm sure, but very impressive. What changed all this was the coming of Islam. And they arrived just after the Byzantines and Persia had battered each other senseless. And both empires were exhausted. And the Arabs show up riding their camels, the smell of which terrifies horses. They navigated by the stars. They could slip into the deserts, slaughter their camels, drink the water, appear 30 miles in your rear. You don't know where they are. They attack without warning. The one Byzantine army that tried to follow them got caught in a sandstorm and wiped out. There were also religious differences. Alexandria, one of the great patriarchs of the Eastern Church, surrendered voluntarily to the forces of Islam. And it looked like all of North Africa, the whole empire was going to fall. The fact that it didn't is due to two things. The last chance to contain the Islamic threat, and if it had been successful, then today North Africa would be much more like Western, Eastern Europe than it is today. There wouldn't be this great cultural divide between the two. It was under the reign of this guy, Constantine II. He was 11 years old. You can't tell from his coins. He has this huge beard. In fact, his nickname was Constantine the Bearded. I don't know if you can see, he's the figure on the left. He's got a huge beard. He put that beard on his coins because he wanted to look older. He raised an army, a massive army, and he was going to stop the Muslims from going into North Africa. He had everything set, and in order to be closer, he moved the capital from Constantinople to Syracuse in Sicily. But the problem was he couldn't help himself. Once he started getting, you know how it is, once you're in political office and you start getting money, you just want more and more and more. And so it's sort of like a Tea Party moment, I guess. His chamberlain said, enough is enough. I'm tired of these high taxes. Supposedly people were selling their lives into slavery to pay the taxes. He waited till Constance was taking a bath, just before he was going to lead his great army against the Muslims. And he snuck there. The emperor was alone. He grabbed a soap dish and smashed him over the head, and thus ended the last chance, really, to contain the Islamic threat. And it rolled on. By the year 711, only about 100 years after they first appeared, they're already in Spain. The fact that the empire didn't fall completely is not because they had great leadership at the top. This is one of my favorite stories of Byzantine history. I think it sort of sums things up. As the forces of Islam were tearing through North Africa and into Asia Minor, this emperor, who's on the left there on the shield, his name is Leo V. He overthrew the previous emperor, the guy he's standing next to, and he did it with the help of a drinking buddy named Michael. And Michael got a little big for his britches, and he thought to himself, you know, I helped Leo become the emperor, and he's not giving me any credit. I could make a better emperor than him. Leo wasn't too happy when he heard about that, so he called Michael in front of him. It was Christmas Eve, and he said, "Michael, were you saying that you could make a better emperor and plotting to kill me?" And to his surprise, Michael said, "Yeah, wasn't too bright." Leo was so angry he condemned him to death, and how he did it is the most interesting part. He said, "You're to be tied to an ape and thrown into the furnace." Now, when I first heard that, I thought, an ape? Really? Is this a waste of a good ape? Were there apes that plentiful that you could just grab them and tie them up? Apparently they were. But the ancient Roman punishment for patricide, for killing your father, was to be beaten and then sewn inside a sack with a rooster, a snake, and a monkey, and then thrown in the river Tiber. And the point is to humiliate you. It's not enough to kill you. You must be humiliated, this screeching thing biting you and scratching you as you die. So it's, in a weird way, continuing the traditions of ancient Rome, of the Roman Empire. His wife, at this point, came running in and said, "Leo, you can't do this. It's Christmas Eve. You can't kill someone and then go to church." So Leo said, "Well, you're right. I'll postpone the execution for one day." And he locked up Michael in the dungeon and then went to sleep. Michael got word to his, jails were a little bit different. I guess you could have people running in and out. He got word to his supporters, and they decided to assassinate Leo. They dressed up as monks, snuck into the palace the next day, and attacked Leo as he was singing. He loved to sing. He had a good voice. And just as he burst into song, they said, "Let's get him." Unfortunately, it was early morning. They attacked the wrong guy. He was bald. He pulled off. He said, "I'm bald. I'm not the emperor." They stopped attacking him. And in that time, Leo went for the altar. He grabbed a huge bronze cross in one hand and an incense burner in the other. And he was swinging it around. Supposedly held off everyone for an hour. But they eventually did dispatch him, threw his body out the window. He had the keys hidden on his person to Michael's chains, and they brought Michael up. They crowned him emperor, but he still had his chains on because they couldn't get it off. Now, while the emperors were sort of in these kinds of shenanigans, the empire was crumbling. You might ask yourself, well, why didn't the empire fall? How on earth? Byzantium lasted for 1,000 years. There's no other government which can make that boast. A continuous government for over 1,000 years. So how did it last? The answer is how they approached diplomacy. Now, if you go to Rome, you can see Trajan's column. It's a 100-meter marble column set up by the Emperor Trajan to commemorate his war against the Dacians. And all around, he's put reliefs, he's put carvings, 2,500 figures showing his soldiers, showing him fighting the Dacians. And at the very top, you know what he carved? Sheep. That's it. Just sheep grazing, because there were no people left. And his point was total war. You either destroy or you're destroyed trying. That was the Roman mentality. 100% total war. Byzantines couldn't afford that. They did have some very excellent, capable emperors. There's Basil the Bulgar Slayer on the bottom, getting his nickname. On the top, you have Greek fire. It's their secret weapon. It was something like napalm. They could, it burned even on water, so if your ship starts burning, you jump overboard, you'll be coated with it, and it's a terrible way to go. We still don't know how exactly they made it, but what the Byzantines did instead of total war is they focused on diplomacy. They found out that the easiest way to beat your enemy was to bribe them. And you know what? Religious fanatics, they make even easier bribes than people who aren't really religious, they found out, as far as dealing with their Muslim opponents. When it came time to dealing with others, they would give them gifts. This is given to the king of Hungary, Geza. It's by the Byzantine Emperor Michael. If you look on the crown, you see these three things in this arrangement. On the bottom right, that's Geza, the king they're giving the crown to. On the top is the Basileus, the Emperor Michael, and then his son